She is the CEO and co-founder of Expect Fitness. Now, Ms. Cook learned the secrets of addictive content creation when she was at the media powerhouse of MTV. We all remember MTV, of course we do. And in that position, she was the head creative of the MTV Video Music Award. She was the brand manager of Nick Cannon's Wild 'N Out and the senior vice president in business development. Now, she is in a slightly different industry now, if you will. She was inspired to launch Expect when her sister was exercising during pregnancy. Expect Fitness is the full name of the program. And after observing her sister's love and passion for exercise even while pregnant, then witnessed her sister giving birth in a labor that was so smooth that the OBGYN was only in their delivery room for about quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. Adara then became very much more familiar with the research, the overwhelming amount of research that talks about the fact that women who exercise in pregnancy drastically reduce their risk of all major pregnancy complications, including premature births, gestational diabetes, which is something I experienced in my second pregnancy, preeclampsia, and postpartum depression, and it helps them to deliver healthier babies. Now, she has also noticed the lack of pre and postnatal fitness classes and modifications in her favorite gyms and in her fitness apps. So she left MTV to follow her passion and to help moms exercise in their own homes on their own time for healthier pregnancies, deliveries, and babies. Dara and her Expect Fitness co-founder, Joey Pacheco, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, they met through their college alumni club back in New York City, and they bonded over their love for fitness. And basically, this graduate of the Wharton Business School, where she was also a Joseph Wharton scholar and a Ben Franklin scholar, and Harvard Business School's general management program, where her ideas for Expect Fitness won strategy competition. And she is now joining us today to make sure we are all aware as to the benefits of exercise during pregnancy. And now I know some of y'all ain't pregnant. That's all right. You know somebody who is and or will be, or you love somebody who has been. And this is all information that will be beneficial to the community. Dara Cook, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Welcome to the Lurie Daniel Favor Show.
Thank you so much, Lurie. Thank you.
Thank you. As somebody who has had two children, the first of which I exercised extensively. I was in my yoga goddess moment. Okay. I think that was the healthiest I've been. Phenomenal delivery. Could not have asked for anything better. It was a water birth. The child came out as a child. I mean, it was 22 hours of labor, but it was a phenomenal delivery. No drugs, no nothing. Wasn't quite as active during that second pregnancy, in fact, by a lot, and ended up having all the things: gestational diabetes, emergency C-section, like everything that could go wrong ended up going wrong, except the birth of this beautiful, amazing human being who is our second child. So this is an experience that you observed in someone you love, obviously, your sister. Talk to us about how that experience impacted you and led you to this path.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the big headline that we share with people is that pregnancy has a similar impact on the body as running a marathon. So, I
Oh,
don't know if you've ever run a marathon or trained for
no.
one or know people who have, but we ask this question, would you run a marathon without training for it, right? And
Wow.
so when we think about the pregnancy journey in that way, then you understand the crucial importance of training for it, physically training for it. So when you're pregnant, your heart pumps up to 50% more blood. All of your body systems are changing. And physically preparing for pregnancy. And so we talked about people who are listening who are not, who may not be pregnant yet, or you know someone who's pregnant. Actually, the best results happen when you exercise in the year before pregnancy and continue throughout pregnancy, and then after you're cleared by your physician after pregnancy, because it's a major physical event that taxes every system of the body. And just like when you think about people who have a better experience running a marathon, those are the people who train for it the hardest, so to speak, right?
Mm.
So the idea of staying sedentary 9 months and then someone saying, go run a marathon, and the stakes are the health of you and your unborn baby, that's tough. So
Yeah.
we started Expect to empower women, give them the tools so they can train for this ultimate marathon called maternity, and we do it better than anyone else.
Mm. This is fascinating to me because, not that I want to have any more children. God, you understand my heart. I'm just saying, just saying. In my own personal life, as I shared with you all, when I compare what was happening with me physically in the first pregnancy as compared to the second pregnancy, that certainly bore out in my experience. And the idea that I know people who've run marathons, I have never run a marathon. I have not even walked a 5K, although I'm very active as a person. But I know that it is intense. Like there is a level of dedication and commitment that one has to have for it in terms of diet, in terms of consistency of preparation. It's a lot. And I'm curious about you're highlighting the fact that the best time to be preparing is about a year before you actually get pregnant. So for those of us who found out we was pregnant and wasn't planning on it, this is really to me also calling us to a healthier lifestyle generally, because anybody can catch a pregnancy. It happens. So whether you plan it for it or not. And that part, I think a lot of us sometimes struggle with a little bit because we are been taught, many of us anyway, have been taught that, well, pregnancy is natural. Just like we're taught breastfeeding is natural. So when, you have a baby and you can't breastfeed or the baby can't latch on, you feel like a failure as a human. You've got the postpartum emotions running through you. This idea that pregnancy is natural, therefore it doesn't require anything else, I feel like that's a very American thing. How do you dispel that sort of indoctrination, that sort of approach to pregnancy, which we often don't really treat with the level of seriousness that we should? I mean, we do the registries now. We're going to get the baby registry. We're going to have that baby shower. But the
Right.
preparation, mind, body part, that feels like it gets far less attention during the pregnancy life cycle.
Well, our approach is we are embedded very deeply within the medical community. So, Expect is the only pre and postnatal fitness platform where every workout has been approved by practicing OBGYNs for
Wow.
safety and complication relief. So, we have a
Wow.
panel of OBGYNs, including my sister's OBGYN, Dr. Rachel Villanueva, who became the president of the National Medical Association, which is the country's largest and oldest association of Black physicians and their patients. And these physicians, they're representing hospital systems all over the country, extremely well educated professionals. Dr. Villanueva was Yale undergrad, Yale Medical School. And these physicians, they are fellows of the American College of OBGYN. So to take a step back, the American College of OBGYNs, they set policy for all OBGYNs in America. And some years back, because of all of the tremendous research that shows the impact, the positive impact of when you work out in pregnancy and postnatal, they recommend their patients to exercise. So if you check out the American College of OBGYNs, they have an official committee opinion that says if you're pregnant and cleared by your doctor, it's very important that you exercise to have a healthier pregnancy, delivery, and baby. And how we dispelled some of these ideas about pregnancy, just take it easy, you don't need to do anything else, is through the science, right? So we confer with physicians, and we have as our medical advisor one of the top global researchers in physical activity, Dr. Ayman Lee at Harvard Medical School. And so she co-authored the big studies on the impact of prenatal fitness on gestational diabetes, which so many people, as you shared your story, have.
And I missed
And
that report.
yeah, and here's the thing. This is the medical community in general. When we know better, we do better, right? There was a time, and I'm aging myself, growing up, we didn't have seat belts, we didn't have car seats, right? I remember when I was a kid, I remember every now and then you would see a pregnant woman smoking, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
we don't see that anymore, right? Because when the medical community knows better, we do better, right? And so there was this misconception for years that pregnant women should be bedridden, right? And the American College, they reversed that. They said bed rest has been overprescribed. And in fact, physical inactivity by itself is a risk factor.
Mm.
So that's because of
Wow.
how athletic pregnancy and delivery is. So it is, we now know. So all the world's leading health organizations, we're talking about the World Health Organization, our own Health and Human Services, American College of OBGYNs, over in the UK, National Health Services, they all say the same thing: exercise in pregnancy.
So, one of the things that I'm also aware of is that we have this current era. of medical information when it comes to pregnancy is very, very different from what we were doing ancestrally, right? Ancestrally, there was a whole different series of rituals and things that people would engage in because we happen to have far less sedentary lifestyles pre what I like to call pre-disruption, pre-Ma'afa, pre-slavery and colonization. The physicality of a person was already sort of baked into their day-to-day affairs, what they were doing, how they were navigating. And we just don't have that right now. Even the way that we deliver babies with the encouragement to lay on your back. That is a fairly recent invention. It's a Western invention, so that men who were not as familiar with female anatomy would be able to see, male doctors would be able to then see what they needed to see, which was very different than the midwifery approach. They're very different than what we were doing ancestrally, even what we were doing on plantations, those of us who were here and throughout colonized portions of the world. And so the reality is that the Western approach to pregnancy is feels like very fraught with a lot of these new science falsehoods. This idea that you should be laid, and lay in the bed and in a reclined position. All of these things feel like, I don't know, it almost feels like a cultural disruption, because that you're talking about, I think, doing what we used to do before we were disrupted. And the disruption has not been good for anyone, for them, for us, for the babies, for the birthing experience. And the idea that we should be even more active, that marathon analogy, that's going to stick with me, because I remember learning during my first pregnancy that there are hormones that your body releases so that every bone in your body separates from each other to make room for this new human being that you're growing, and then has to sort of reassemble. Like, you're so right about the physicality of it. And this idea of a marathon is a wonderful example, because I think we all get that. Like, that is something that most of us ain't doing.
Right.
And we are getting pregnant every single day.
Right.
And we don't have this sort of mindset. Talk to us a little bit about what the rollout of Expect Fitness was for you, because you're not just coming up against new understandings and learnings in science, or should I say new old understandings and learnings in science, but you're also coming up against these very culturally ingrained ideas about what pregnancy is supposed to look like. Give us a sense as to, you conceptualize the program. What was the rollout like for you? And walk us through some of those steps, because we also have a lot of people who find themselves on the entrepreneurial pathway, whether they wanted to or not. And so I'm always keen to understand, what was it like to go from conception to idea to implementation?
I love this. This is my favorite topic. Well, we really started with an ethos, which is pregnancy is power, right? So how do we get out of this mindset that the pregnant woman is fragile and weak and needs to be on bed rest? No, when you're pregnant, you are so powerful, you can usher another life into this world. That is the extent of your agency. And so what we say is wield that power, right? And that is our approach to everything that we do. One of the issues when you talk about the rollout, what we looked at what was currently out there, right? So what are people doing? Their doctor tells them, look, just like my sister's doctor, Dr. Villanueva said, you've got to exercise to reduce your risk factors for hypertension, gestational diabetes, postpartum depression. Then the question is, what do I do? So we found that this was lacking, right? So that's important in terms of when you're thinking about starting a business, look at what other alternatives are there. How are people fulfilling this need they have currently? And the problem is women did not trust the safety of what was out there, right? And so, and rightfully so, because you feel different when you're pregnant, right? Everything is changing, to your point, right? Your joints are becoming more lax to prepare for this pregnancy. Your heart is working harder than ever before. You're at higher risk of gestational diabetes if you're not counterbalancing that with nutrition and exercise. So but you're looking at the scope of what's out there and you're like, well, wait, should I be balancing on one leg? That seems a little off to me right now, right? So we sat down with the head of the American College of Sports Medicine and we asked, is this even worth it for us to do? And he said yes, because he explained the way in which the body changes and that there are modifications that are pretty necessary when you're pregnant. We looked at what was out there, found that it was lacking. Most prenatal fitness is focused on yoga. And so when you think again about the marathon analogy, would you prepare for a marathon by only doing yoga? No, right? You need cardio.
You're gonna be downward dog after the first mile, and you might not get back up again. It ain't gonna be no sun salutations. You just gonna go from downward dog in the child's pose and just call it a day. That's wonderful.
Exactly. So you need cardio, you need strength, right? This is an endurance event. We talked about your labor being 22 hours. You need to build that through other forms of exercise. We also saw that what was out there was not diverse at all. Okay, so there were no Black women featured. Black women, unfortunately, in America are 3 times more likely to die of pregnancy complications. On the positive side, that means we have the most to gain from exercising in pregnancy. So let's show
Wow.
ourselves. So that was our approach, was to look at the science, look at what was lacking, and fill those gaps. So we have it we our pre and postnatal fitness library is 3 times that of some of the major brands. I don't want to name them, but you might think of one or two that come to mind. We have 3x of that, and we see different types of women, different races, different body types. We even include partners, um, because look, it took two to make them, right? Make the baby. So we include the male partner in the workout as well.
This is wonderful because I want to circle back to something you had said earlier that struck me, and I made a mental note to come back to it. You said that you're the only OBGYN approved fitness experience, and that to me means something because one, I am horrified by that because I just presume that these people know what they're doing and that and that they are, putting out content that's healthy and that's good. But you're right, if you haven't actually been in a space where OBGYNs, those are obstetrician gynecologists for folks who are curious about the letters, if you haven't been in a situation where they haven't been able to evaluate it, to approve it, there are different considerations. There are different things that you have to know. And so that to me, that is something that gives me a whole lot of comfort. And then this idea that we experience maternal mortality to such a degree, we as Black women in particular, the grandmothers of the planet, I would remind everyone, we have the most to gain from having this approach to health in our pregnancy. Let's sit in that space for a little bit because I am right now in a position where, frankly, I'm like, we got to do everything. We got to be healthy. We got to eat right. There are so many things that we have to be focusing on. We have got people who are let go from jobs that they were overly qualified for. We got communities reconfiguring themselves. And so the idea of health has been very much at the forefront of my mind. Also because I have spent the past 2 months of election season not really exercising a whole lot because when I'm at my actual job running a law center, we're very much on the ground, like doing campaign work. So I felt my own health and physicality sort of, I've renewed in the month of December. But this idea that we have the most to gain from this
Right.
sort of healthy approach to lifestyle, it feels to me very much on point for our pregnant people. It just also feels very much on point to me for all of us right now in light of
Right.
everything that we're facing. Can we talk more about the particular benefits that Black women experience, whether they are experiencing pregnancy as something that is not with the partner, or if they're experiencing pregnancy with the partner, either the one that helped make the baby or just partners that they have because they have a beautiful community? Let's talk a little bit about some of these benefits specifically for Black women, because when we who are at the bottom, when our boat is risen by this tide, everybody else does better too. What can you tell us about Black women in particular and our experiences with health and fitness with pregnancy?
Right, absolutely. It's such an important topic. I recently was invited to speak at the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine on preventing cardiovascular disease amongst women of childbearing age. So a lot of times when we think about cardiovascular disease, we think about grandma, we think about auntie, great
Ooh.
auntie, right? We don't think about women who may be pregnant or who could get pregnant, right? Women of childbearing age in their 20s and 30s. The reality is, though, unfortunately, one of the other presenters at the National Academy shared is really disturbing statistic that the majority of Black women over the age of 21 have cardiovascular disease.
Jesus.
Right. So that means that
Child, I need to go run right
I
now.
know, exactly. Exactly. So
God.
that means that we are going into pregnancy. We are more likely than not going into pregnancy unhealthy in terms of
Wow.
cardiovascular disease, right?
Right.
We're more likely going in with um, elevated blood pressure, right? And what happens, as I mentioned, for example, in pregnancy, your heart is pumping up to 50% more blood because it has to oxygenate you and this growing baby, right? And that is a prime condition. You don't even have to have a medical degree. You just think about it, right? It's like trying to push something, more water through a hose, right? It's a prime grounds for hypertension. And one of the best ways to counterbalance that is to exercise. There's some other things that you can do too. Um, and so in general, it is important for us, like you mentioned before, in terms of, sometimes pregnancy will just happen, right? So 50% of births roughly are planned, 50 are not planned. So, uh, the best way, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
That's
Just
right.
good philosophy for life in general, right?
That's right.
So the goal is to try to be as healthy as possible. Even if you're trying to have a child, there's a lot of research showing that fitness is key for fertility. So our physicians, they also say when women come to them and say, "Hey, I want to be pregnant. I want to get pregnant in the first year." The first thing they talk to them about before they get into IVF, et cetera, are lifestyle changes, right? They're less invasive and they're certainly less expensive.
Mm.
So exercise. We even say even if you don't even exercise with us, you can walk. There's free things that you can do, right? The most important thing is to move, to get your baseline, get yourself healthier. And this pays dividends. So when you exercise in pregnancy, it's the only time that what you do for yourself will also benefit someone else, right? So all the research is showing that women who exercise in pregnancy, their babies are healthier. Their babies have stronger hearts. Their babies have better brain development. Their babies have lower rates of diabetes and obesity into their adulthood. And I do believe this strongly. And we're rolling out a series of mommy and me videos that when your baby is at an age when they can actually see you working out and you continue that habit, then you have instilled in them a lifelong approach that will guide them to a healthier and longer life.
Wow. So in terms of the rollout of the program, how long did it take you to go from witnessing your sister really approach this in a very powerful way to then this idea being conceptualized to it actually being on the ground? As I was reading from your bio, you've had a number of successful ventures that have been supporting this effort. What was that time frame like for you, and what is the best way for people who are pregnant, people who are thinking about being pregnant, or who just found out, Lord Jesus, what happened? What is the best way for them to
Yeah.
access your program in ways that can really help them take advantage of it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, my sister, this was 2018, top of it, 2018. She had her first child and she was over a certain age, which meant she was at higher risk, but the pregnancy was smooth because of maternal fitness. And I'll tell you, in terms of people who are thinking about starting businesses, it took a while for me to sort of figure out how I could insert myself using what I knew how to do. My first thought was, I'm going to open a gym. And I said, Dara, you don't know anything about gyms, right? You go to gyms, but you don't know how to operate one, but you do know how to create content, and you can do that in your sleep. So in 2022, I left MTV to focus on Expect full time. And from there, we built this consortium of 17 OBGYNs, a clinical study at University of Alabama at Birmingham. We got grants from Wharton, Harvard Business School, Black Alumni Association, and Tiger Global. We now have a contract with the Boston Public Health Commission. You talked earlier about uh, the midwifery model. Our contract with the Boston Public Health Commission is to train doulas and community health workers on incorporating physical activity into their work with their clients. We have a contract with the Harvard Pilgrim Health Plan. So anyone who's listening, who's in that Massachusetts area, Massachusetts is I'll tell you, they're leaders in healthcare for a reason because they're into prevention.
Mm.
So we're HSA and FSA eligible. And so that's
Wow.
in terms of this time right now, FSA is use it or lose it. This is a good time to invest in your health. Um, and at the top of the year, the number one resolution that people always have, exercise, right?
Yep.
Exercise more. That's when we see the biggest boost. So in terms of gifts, etc., this is a great time to engage in fitness. And for more, you can go to our website, www.expect.fit, F-I-T. So instead of .com, it's
Mhm.
.fit.
Okay.
And that has all the info.
Expect.fit. Say that one more time. Say that one more time. I almost
It
repeated the
is
wrong thing.
www.expect.fit.
Expect.fit. This is
Yes.
fantastic. And I'm going to ask for those of us who are firmly wedded to our partners and our birth control, would this also be good for those of us who are not planning on pregnancy? Or because I feel like, pelvic support health and pelvic region health is very, very important. It's something that we don't pay a lot of attention to. I know people do Kegels because they think that's going to help their orgasms be amazing. And I'm not mad at an amazing orgasm, but Kegels are also a muscle that is getting some exercise. Is this also good just for pelvic floor health generally, or am I searching too hard?
You're absolutely right. So we have a best-in-class program called Pelvic Floor Rescue that was developed by one of the few board-certified pelvic floor physical therapists in this country. There are less than 1,000, and approved by a urogynecologist. And it is all about the pelvic floor. And so this is for women of all stages, whether you might not even be thinking about pregnancy. You may want to improve your sexual health, to your point. You may be pregnant and you want to think about having a stronger pelvic floor to prepare you maybe for a vaginal birth, postnatal, and you're looking to recover and treat incontinence. You may be perimenopausal or in menopause, and we know that hormonal changes again really change the pelvic floor in a way where you need to supplement it with physician approved activity. And so that's what we provide, pelvic floor rescue. It's included within the Expect experience. And I encourage everyone to check that out because it's just like brushing your teeth, right? With your pelvic floor, you must engage it all the time, just like you must brush your teeth every day. It's like take care of it or lose it, right? So your pelvic floor is similar in that way. Engage it. Our PT, she says, "Hey, every time I'm at a traffic light, I engage my pelvic floor, right? It's that top
And
of
is that
mind for
just with
her."
Kegels, or is that
Yeah,
like
she
how
does.
is that
Yeah, she does.
engaged?
She does that. Yes, but we also have videos that are full exercise programs that were developed by a pelvic floor PT, so that go beyond Kegels into other types of exercises that are fantastic at strengthening the pelvic floor.